With Iran effectively blockading the Strait of Hormuz, Saudi Arabia is now attempting one of the most audacious logistical pivots in industrial history. This is the energy world's absolute nightmare. A standoff of drones and sea mines has turned the world's most vital artery into a dead end, trapping 21 million barrels of oil per day. It is a supply shock, with the power to send gas prices in California soaring toward $15 a gallon. But while the headlines are fixated on the chaos in the Gulf, Saudi Arabia has quietly activated a multi-billion-dollar project first conceived in the 1980s. It's a 45-year-old contingency plan designed to bypass these dangerous waters and fundamentally redraw the global energy map. As of April 2026, the big question is, can a desert pipeline built for a different era stabilize a 21st century crisis? Or are we just watching the coordinates of global risk shift from the sea to the sand? Saudi Arabia didn't build this project for convenience. They built it for strategic survival. The logic goes back to 1981, during the height of the Iran-Iraq War. As tankers in the Persian Gulf became targets in what came to be known as the Tanker War, the kingdom realized that relying on a single narrow exit point was an existential risk. If an adversary could plug the Strait of Hormuz, the Saudi economy could flatline almost overnight. Their answer was the East-West Pipeline, better known as Petroline. This is a 750-mile engineering corridor stretching across the width of the Arabian Peninsula, linking the giant oil fields in the east to the Red Sea in the west. And these are not ordinary pipes. At 56 inches in diameter, they're large enough for a person to walk through without ducking. But the real challenge of Petroline isn't just the distance, it's the physics. Raw crude oil is dense, viscous, and stubborn. Imagine trying to push cold honey through a straw for 750 miles, and if the pressure drops even slightly, the whole system starts fighting you. Now add the desert itself. In 120-degree Fahrenheit heat, the steel expands, the operating conditions become harder to control, and even the behavior of the oil begins to shift. So this pipeline doesn't run on momentum alone. It has to be forced. That's why Saudi Arabia relies on 11 massive pumping stations along the route. These aren't simple pump houses. They are industrial-scale pressure hubs, acting like the mechanical heartbeat of the entire system, driving millions of barrels across dunes, elevation changes, and punishing heat. And for decades, this whole network mostly sat there at partial capacity, a multi-billion-dollar backup plan waiting for the day it might actually matter. Now, it has become one of the only things standing between stability and chaos. In recent weeks, Saudi Aramco, the kingdom's state oil giant, has made clear that Petroline is now being pushed to its absolute mechanical limit. To grasp the scale, enough oil is reaching the Red Sea each day to fill roughly 450 Olympic-sized swimming pools. That works out to one enormous pool every 3 minutes around the clock. And that has turned the once quiet port of Yanbu into one of the most important energy hubs on the planet. Pull up a ship tracking map off the coast, and you'll see an unusually long queue of supertankers waiting offshore, many of them the size of a city block. But getting the oil to the coast is only half the battle. The real bottleneck begins once it reaches the port. While the pipeline itself can technically move 7 million barrels a day, Yanbu can only load something closer to 4 or 5 million barrels onto ships. The oil is there, but it's struggling to leave. And that creates a serious logistical jam. Every hour, a supertanker sits offshore. The cost of labor, fuel, and most importantly, insurance starts climbing, and those invisible costs don't stay at the port. They get passed all the way down the chain to consumers at the pump and the grocery store. There is another, more dangerous problem with Saudi Arabia's desert pivot: vulnerability. A ship is a mobile asset. It can change course, hug a different coastline, or hide in a bay to avoid a threat. A 750-mile steel pipeline, however, is a permanent, unmoving target on a map. The drone strike on the Samref refinery in Yanbu on March 19th was a loud and clear warning. It showed that even after the oil reaches the Red Sea, it still isn't out of danger. By bypassing the naval trap in the north, Saudi Arabia has essentially traded a maritime risk for a terrestrial one. In an era of cheap, long-range kamikaze drones, defending 750 miles of pipe through an empty desert is a security nightmare. Then, there is the final, most painful twist in the geography. To reach key Asian markets such as China and India, these tankers leaving Yanbu must still head south through another narrow choke point, Bab el-Mandeb, the Gate of Tears at the southern tip of the Red Sea. If that passage is threatened, ships bound for Asia are forced to take a 2-week detour around the entire continent of Africa, passing the Cape of Good Hope. This detour is an economic catastrophe. Factoring in extra fuel, crew wages, and the skyrocketing insurance for a 6,000-mile detour, it adds roughly $1 million per day to the journey of a single supertanker. Ultimately, the entire global economy is being held hostage by the cost of avoiding a few inexpensive drones. So how do you respond when your backup route suddenly becomes your lifeline? In the short term, Saudi Arabia has been pushing the Yanbu system as hard as it can. By late March 2026, exports through Yanbu were already nearing the system's practical limit of about 5 million barrels a day. Aramco has also been rerouting cargoes, allowing some buyers to lift crude from the Red Sea instead of the Gulf, even as supplies to parts of Asia have come under pressure. This has turned Yanbu into something it was never meant to be on this scale. Not just a backup terminal, but one of the most critical energy release valves in the world. And in one sense, the emergency response has worked. Millions of barrels that could have been stranded behind Hormuz are still reaching global markets. It is one of the main reasons prices have not spiraled even further. But the fix has hard limits. Capacity remains tight, which means longer delays, tighter allocations, and higher costs that continue to spread outward through the market. If this crisis drags on, Saudi Arabia will need more than a short-term surge. It will need more loading capacity on the Red Sea, more storage, and a bigger regional push toward routes that bypass Hormuz altogether. And Saudi is not the only one thinking that way. The UAE is already relying more heavily on Fujairah, outside Hormuz, and the broader Gulf is getting a brutal reminder that backup routes are no longer optional. They are becoming the price of survival. So in the end, this crisis is exposing something bigger than a single pipeline or a single country. It's exposing how fragile the modern world really is. Because when one narrow waterway closes, fuel prices jump, shipping routes unravel, supply chains tighten, and millions of people who have never even heard of Yanbu or Bab el-Mandeb still end up paying for it. Saudi Arabia has found a way to keep part of the system moving, but this isn't a full solution. It's a workaround under pressure, and a reminder that in the global energy game, backup routes can become front lines overnight. So what do you think? Is Saudi Arabia pulling off a strategic masterstroke here, or are we just watching the world trade one choke point for another? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoy deep dives that make global events actually make sense, hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.